Wish you were staying in town a little longer, Aunt Dorothy. Jeffrey's dying to meet you. I'm dying for him to meet you.
I wish I had the chance this visit, too. Why don't you bring him with you next time you come to Vermont?
I know he'd love it. But I don't want to be a hassle.
Oh, it's no hassle. When I was still teaching, I used to have my students up for the weekend all the time. I actually miss the company something.
Aunt Dorothy? What?
That man. No, it couldn't be.
Who is it?
Two women, a man, a chase down library steps, and so our story begins. Like life, all stories have a beginning, middle, and end. But the distances between beginning and end, between story and life, can sometimes be deceptive, especially when viewed through the shifting prisms of the Twilight Zone.
Come on.
Who is that man?
It just may be someone I knew very many years ago. Oh, it was the fall of 1933. I was fresh out of college, just 22. I was taking my first teaching assignment in a small Appalachian town, Powder Ridge, West Virginia.
Here you go, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
You should put all your shoes in the one bag.
Oh, not shoes, books.
Miss Livingston.
Yes, I'm Dorothy Livingston. Oh, you must be Mrs.
Dockweiler, Roberta. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, too.
You best give that one here, son.
Oh, do as the gentleman says, will you?
Yes, sir, Mrs. Dockweiler.
I didn't realize you'd be leaving so soon. I have so many questions.
Well, I'm afraid my sister's baby isn't willing to wait.
Oh.
Now, don't worry. There is nothing that you need to know that isn't in the notes I left you on my desk.
Let's get on board now, ma'am.
Oh, now, don't worry. These 3 months are going to fly by, and by the time I get back, you're going to wish I would have stayed away forever. Oh, something else not covered in my notes, something important. There's a boy, a primary grader. His name is Micah Frost. Now, he's going to want to be able to use the school library very often. You must never deny him access to the library. Never. You understand?
Yes, Mother, it's very clean. And the bed is firm. I checked first thing. Listen, I'm going to have to go soon. This is very expensive. I know. I'm going to miss our after-supper talks, too. I'll call you at first thing next Sunday and let you know how everything went, okay? I will. I love you, too. Very much. Very much. Good night, Mom. Bye. Okay. Daniel Elledge?
Present.
Nathaniel Elledge?
Present.
Micah Frost?
Present.
Okay. Jennifer Hayes? While the expanding colonies were growing wealthy and independent, Britain maintained that the colonies existed solely for its own profit and were to be tightly ruled by the king and parliament back in England. Up until 1763, however, control over the colonies was fairly lax. But after France was defeated in the French and Indian Wars, Britain decided to restore control and tax the colonies to help pay for the war. In addition to numerous new taxes imposed on the colonists, a standing army was to be sent to America, to be quartered at colonial expense, and settlement beyond your own Appalachian Mountains was forbidden. Micah Frost. Micah Frost?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me the natural border the British chose beyond which colonial settlement was forbidden?
No, ma'am. I can't.
I just mentioned it a moment ago. The Appalachians. I suggest you put your other work aside for later and listen to the lesson at hand. In 1765, Micah. Micah. Time to go home.
Hi, Miss Livingston. Hi.
So in order to add the two fractions, we must first determine the common denominator. Who'd like to try that for us? Mossy?
Look at this.
Micah? Micah, may I see you down here a minute?
Micah, I've been going over the school records, and as far as I can tell, Mrs. Dockweiler hasn't had a conference with your parents in quite some time. I was wondering if you could shed some light on
My
that.
parents died in an accident in our truck more than a year ago.
I'm sorry. Who's taking care of you?
It's just me and my grandfather now.
I see. Well, would you ask your grandfather if he could stop by the schoolhouse some afternoon soon? I'd like to talk to him.
No, he couldn't. He's got too much to do.
I see. Please tell him then that I'll stop by and see him sometime soon.
You can't do that.
Micah.
Just write a note. That's what Mrs. Dockweiler does. I promise he'll read it.
Well, I'm afraid that won't do in this case.
You can't see him. You can't.
And the princess heard the lion in the brambles, but she couldn't see it, but she knew it was hungry, and she knew it was coming closer to her.
And as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, the forest grew very dark. And the princess heard the lions in the brambles, but she couldn't see it. But she knew it was hungry. And she knew it was coming closer to her. Good night, Granddad.
How much did you hear?
Just the very last. Micah, I apologize. When I stepped up here, it was not my intention to eavesdrop. Micah, why don't you tell me what's going on?
The man in there? The man I call my grandfather?
Yes?
Well, he's not my grandfather. He's my great-great-great-grandfather. Born in 1793. He's 141 years old.
Micah, I've never heard of anyone outside of the Bible living past 110. How?
I keep him alive. Like my daddy did. And my daddy's daddy. Well, and his daddy before him. I keep him alive by telling him stories.
Stories?
Not whole stories, but stories left in the middle. Left that so he's got to stay alive. Gotta live till the next day to find out what happens.
Oh, Micah, stories don't keep someone alive.
But they do. Every night I finish a story from the night before. Then I start a new one. Always leaving off at some middle spot. Some spot where it's aching to know what's gonna happen next. I used to sit with my daddy when he told the stories. Told me to listen, too. And learn. Because in 10 years or so, it was going to be my turn. Then he and Mama died out on old Simpson Bridge. Came to be up to me that very day. Have been ever since.
You make up a story all by yourself every day?
Got to.
Micah, even if it is your stories that keep him alive, everybody has their time here on Earth. Wouldn't it be wrong to keep such an old man alive in such a way?
I remember lying in bed lots of nights, hearing my mama argue about that same thing, my daddy. But my daddy always said that as long as Granddad was clear-headed and comfortable, well, it was unthinkable for us, well, his family, not to do everything we could to keep him with us. Now that's my responsibility. Like it was my daddy's. I'm the man of the house now.
I want you to lay as still as you can, all right? All right?
Ah!
All right. All right, just lay as still as you can, and we're going to get you help right away. All right, now, Russell, I want you to run into town and get the doctor. Tell him I sent you and that it's an emergency. It's all right. You just stay quiet. Just stay quiet.
Ow! Let me go! I gotta go home.
It looks like a compound break. May set easy and it may not. I'm going to suggest that he stay the night with my wife and me, just so I can keep an eye on him. Will you be sure to let his folks know?
Yes, of course, Doctor.
Good.
Miss Livingston, please!
Thank you, Doctor. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Mr. Frost?
Huh?
I'm Dorothy Livingston. I'm Micah's teacher.
Oh, yes. He's mentioned you several times in the last few days.
I've come because there's been an accident at school.
Micah?
He's all right. He's all right. He broke an arm in a fall from a tree. Apparently it's nothing serious. He's with the doctor now.
That boy's quite a climber. He's a real Frost. I never met a male Frost yet who wasn't most comfortable perched way up higher than anybody else. Did the doctor say what time the boy was likely to be home?
He won't be coming home tonight, Mr. Frost. He's going to be staying with the doctor and his wife until the morning.
You're still alive. You didn't need the stories. You didn't need the stories.
Micah. You dropped this yesterday when you fell. I finished the story that you'd begun last night, and I began another one. It's all in there.
But I didn't think that you believed...
I'm still not convinced that it's the stories that keep your great-great-great-grandfather alive. But I thought just in case.
I finished my 3-month teaching assignment in Powder Ridge. Gave all the books I'd brought with me to Micah as a gift. Got on the bus and have never been back. There have been a number of times over the past 50 years when I wondered just what became of that odd little boy and the old man.
And you think that man we're following is...
Micah.
But if the old man were 141 in 1933, he'd have to be close to 200 now.
Keep it. Thanks.
And as the woman watched, the door eased open very slowly.
Is the old man there? Is he 200 years old?
I can't say, Mother. Not until tomorrow.